The piece of trash that I'm throwing away? You're welcome to him. After 3 years of humiliation, Chloe's divorce was meant to be her final disgrace. To her husband Leo, she was a worthless freeloader. To his family, she was an obstacle to be drugged, shamed, and destroyed. They all thought they had broken her. They never knew the woman they scorned was a decorated military captain, a national hero and tech savant who secretly built Leo's entire empire from the shadows. Now, standing before the ancestral hall that bars her entry, clutching the ashes of her martyr parents, she is no longer a discarded wife. She is the captain, reborn, and she is not alone. Vying for her is the powerful princeling who has adored her for years, and the possessive tycoon who warns her, "With me, there is no divorce, only widowhood." They thought her story was over. They were wrong. The war has just begun. The lights of the police station were cold and harsh, and the air smelled of disinfectant and paper. After giving her statement, Chloe listened calmly as the officer gave his report. Leo's mother and sister were in custody, their temporary freedom contingent on a hefty bail. The 2 hired thugs had confessed. As for Sophia's song, due to a lack of direct evidence, she had been released after questioning. The night air was cool, washing away some of her fatigue as she stepped outside. She was about to hail a cab when a black SUV slid silently to a stop in front of her. The door flew open and a familiar, yet different, figure rushed out, pulling her into a tight, unyielding embrace. "Captain, did you get married just to end up like this?" The voice was thick with suppressed anger and deep concern. Chloe's body went rigid. It was Ethan, the boy she had mentored at the military base, the one who only ever called her captain in private. 3 years had transformed the lanky teenager into a tall, imposing man. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "If I didn't come, were you just planning to handle everything on your own?" He hugged her tighter, as if trying to merge her into his very bones. "I should have stopped you from marrying that bastard back then." Chloe gave a wry smile and patted his back. "It's okay, I'm fine. I'm all sweaty, let go." Ethan reluctantly released her, but his deep eyes remained locked on her like a hawk. In the end, he insisted on driving her back to the villa she now considered a cage. At the entrance, Ethan looked at the opulent building with cold eyes. "I'll come find you again soon." "Don't." Chloe shook her head. "I'm planning to move out." The ice in Ethan's eyes melted instantly, replaced by undisguised joy. "Great. Call me when you're moving. I'll help." After saying goodbye, Chloe pushed open the heavy villa doors. A wave of cold air hit her. Leo was standing just inside, his face dark enough to drip ink. "Who was that who just dropped you off?" "Was it Jasper by?" he demanded, the sight of the expensive SUV having stung his eyes. "A former colleague from the military." Chloe couldn't be bothered to explain, wanting only to go upstairs and wash away the day's filth. But he grabbed her arm, his grip so tight it felt like he could shatter her bones. "Liar. Since when are your military colleagues that rich?" "Chloe, who are you really cheating on me with? When did it start with you and Jasper by?" "I have nothing to do with Jasper by." Chloe yanked her arm free, her eyes filled with disgust. "Leo, don't project your own filth onto everyone else." "Innocent." He was so agitated he began spewing nonsense. "Then tell me why when I called you." Jasper by answered the phone. "He said you were asleep. Were you sleeping right next to him?" Chloe stopped in her tracks and slowly turned, her gaze devoid of anger, filled only with a dead, hollow sorrow. "You have the nerve to bring up that phone call. If it weren't for your mother and sister's despicable scheme, would I have ended up in a hospital needing a tranquilizer from him?" Leo froze, stunned into silence. Chloe ignored him and went straight upstairs. When she emerged from the bathroom, clean and changed, she found Leo sitting on the edge of the bed, his anger replaced by a forced gentleness. She found Leo sitting on the edge of the bed, his anger replaced by a forced gentleness. "Chloe, I know my mother and sister hurt you deeply, but at the end of the day, we're family. If you just sign a letter dropping the charges, this whole thing can be over." "I won't sign it." Chloe's voice was flat. "Leo, I can't forgive them. They are my mother and my sister." He raised his voice, annoyed. "So what?" Chloe stared him down, her words like knives. "Because they're your family, I'm supposed to forgive them no matter what they do to me? If they had succeeded yesterday, do you have any idea what would have happened to me? I would have been assaulted by 2 men, had a humiliating video of it spread online. Also, your family could get out of paying me what they owed. Would you have wanted me to forgive them then?" Her questions were like red-hot needles, piercing Leo's conscience. He was speechless, a sharp pain blooming in his chest. "I promise, it will never happen again." He stepped forward, trying to embrace her. "Just this once, forgive them. My mother is old. Gia is still young. They can't have a criminal record. So I'm the one who should be sacrificed, is that it?" Chloe looked at him dispassionately. Her gaze made him feel an unfamiliar panic, as if she might vanish at any moment. He pulled her into a desperate hug, a tremor in his voice he didn't even recognize. "Chloe, I'll be good to you. I'll be twice as good to you from now on." How familiar those words were. He'd said the same thing when he proposed 3 years ago. Back then, she had been blindly moved. Now it was just ironic. She gently pushed him away, creating a physical distance that mirrored the distance between their hearts. Leo, I'm moving out. Until we are officially divorced, let's not see each other again. He felt an emptiness in his arms and a corresponding void in his chest. You want a divorce? Because of that ridiculous contract? My mother tricked me into signing it. I never wanted to divorce you. Now, I'm the one who wants the divorce, Chloe stated calmly. I'm tired. These 3 years of marriage have exhausted me, and they've worn away every last bit of feeling I had for you. You have no feelings for me. His voice was shaking. No, not anymore. Her words were a hammer blow, shattering his pride and any lingering hope. His face went pale, and he started to lash out. No feelings? Just because of what my mother did? You were scheming against them too. You could have called me sooner, and it never would have gotten to that point. I did call, Chloe said suddenly. Leo froze. Right before they were about to make their move, I called you. If you had answered, things would have been completely different. But you didn't. He remembered. In the ballroom, before the screen lit up, he had seen her call. Sophia was right beside him, and he, fearing a scene, had rejected it without a thought. He had severed the final thread himself. A tide of regret washed over him. I didn't know, he apologized weakly. I'm sorry. Honestly, even without what happened yesterday, my feelings for you were already gone. Chloe's voice was like a final eulogy for their dead relationship. Leo, let's just end this amicably. 2 days later, in the private room of a high-end club, Leo was drinking heavily, frustrated by his inability to find a lawyer. Sophia was comforting him when her eyes suddenly lit up, spotting a familiar figure across the room. Leo, look, that's my uncle, and with him is Ethan. He's the notorious princeling of the capital. If you can get him on your side, your problems will be solved. A flicker of hope ignited in Leo's eyes, and he quickly followed Sophia over to their table. Uncle, young Master Ethan. Sophia greeted them with a brilliant smile. Inside the booth, a young man dressed casually but exuding a lazy, dangerous aura, looked up. It was Ethan. His gaze landed on Sophia, a smirk playing on his lips. He spoke lazily, his voice not loud, but carrying clearly through the room. I heard Miss Song is the first female captain at her airline. Thanks to some great deed she performed overseas. Sounds like you just got lucky. I've seen women who can really fly. They're nothing like you. Sophia's smile froze on her face. Leo quickly stepped in. Young Master Ethan, hello? I'm Leo Gu of Gu Technologies. I hope we can have a chance to work together. Work together? Ethan scoffed, his gaze shifting to Leo as if looking at a pile of garbage. A man who cheats on his wife and becomes a city-wide scandal thinks he's qualified to work with me? Leo and Sophia's faces flushed crimson. It's a misunderstanding. Sophia and I are just friends. Leo protested. Friends. Ethan leaned back against the sofa, each word a poison-tipped icicle aimed at Leo's heart. Yes, very close friends indeed. So close that last month, while your wife went to the airport alone to receive the ashes of her parents, you were busy keeping your friend here company. As Ethan's words fell, the air in the private room seemed to vanish, leaving a dead silence. Every syllable was a nail pinning Leo to a pillar of shame. His mind went blank, and he could only offer a feeble defense. At the time, Sophia's mother was suddenly injured. That's why I couldn't make it. Injured. Ethan's gaze was as cold as a Siberian winter. A sprained ankle counts as an injury? It seems that in your world, your friend's mother's ankle is far more important than the ashes of your wife's parents. His words made the situation painfully clear to everyone present. Friend, accident. They were all just flimsy excuses. The Ethan family was known for its strict values, especially its intolerance for marital infidelity. In an instant, the gazes on Leo and Sophia shifted to a mixture of pity and disdain. Into this suffocating silence, an unwelcome voice piped up. It was Lucas. Mustering his courage, he defended his benefactor. How can you compare the dead to the living? She could have picked up the ashes by herself. Leo was just trying to be helpful. Before he could finish, a terrifying light flared in Ethan's eyes. He moved. His body was a black blur, appearing in front of Lucas in an instant. What did you just say? He hissed. The words ground out from between his teeth, each one tasting of blood. Lucas, oblivious to the danger, stuck his neck out and repeated, I said, how can you compare the dead to the living? Chloe's parents have been dead for 3 years, does it really? A sharp slap echoed through the room. It wasn't a simple strike, but a blow fueled by immense rage, sending Lucas staggering sideways, half his face immediately swelling up. Ethan, you've gone too far. Leo shouted, shocked and angry. Too far. Ethan laughed, a cruel, mirthless sound. I don't think I've gone far enough. He drove his foot hard into Lucas's stomach. Lucas flew backward like a sack of trash, hitting the floor with a heavy thud. He struggled to get up, but an expensive custom leather shoe slammed down on his chest, the pressure instantly robbing him of breath. I'm just dealing with an animal, Ethan said, looking down at him with icy contempt. Are Chloe's parents people you're even qualified to mention? What's so great about Chloe? Lucas mumbled defiantly. Married to Leo for 3 years, doing nothing but freeloading. Anyone would choose Sophia. Surely a man like you isn't actually taking pity on that kind of woman. Ethan began to laugh, a sound born of pure fury. The person he treasured, the person he revered, was being dragged through the mud by this scum. And the most laughable part? Her own husband, Leo, stood by and let it happen. Ethan's gaze, like two sharp daggers, pierced Leo. You also believe your wife is inferior to Sophia's song? Leo hesitated. That brief moment of silence was all the answer needed. He struggled to speak. In terms of personality and ability, Chloe is indeed not Sophia's equal. And what do you know of her abilities? Ethan removed his foot, his face a mask of disgust. Without her, do you really think your pathetic little company would have gone public in 3 years? That was due to Leo's sharp vision and outstanding abilities. Sophia couldn't help but jump to his defense. Ethan's eyes dripped with scorn. Leo Gu, without Chloe, you are nothing. The vision you're so proud of, the abilities you boast about, they were all given to you by Chloe. Leo flinched as if struck. What abilities could she possibly have? Lucas muttered from the floor. What abilities? Ethan scoffed, his gaze sweeping over the ignorant fools before him. Back in the military, her research single-handedly upgraded the nation's entire security system. In the field of drone applications, she was the military's foremost expert. If she hadn't left the service for you, her scientific achievements would have been enough to secure her a place in the history books. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The blood drained from Leo's face. He thought back over the past 3 years, the projects that seemed to fall into his lap, the flashes of inspiration he had at critical moments, Chloe's seemingly casual suggestions. It wasn't luck. It was the genius he had never bothered to see, quietly paving his way. Tech prodigy? What a joke, Ethan spat. Leo Gu, the only thing you should be grateful for is that Chloe wasted 3 years on you. It's a shame her taste in men is so poor. Every word from Ethan was a public execution. Leo stood frozen, chilled to the bone, unable to offer a single word of rebuttal. As he was leaving, Ethan paused at the door and threw one last grenade into the room. By the way, the 4 major law firms in the capital won't be taking your mother and sister's case. I made sure of it. Chloe didn't own much. A single suitcase contained all 3 years of her life in the villa. Lana came to pick her up. Just as they were driving out of the neighborhood, her phone rang. It was Jasper. If Ms. Xiao wishes to return the dress, you can come to the shooting range now. Wanting to sever ties with this dangerous man as quickly as possible, Chloe immediately agreed. Inside the exclusive, members-only shooting range, gunshots echoed with a steady rhythm. When Chloe saw Jasper, he was holding a pistol with one hand, firing with calm precision. Every shot hit the bullseye, his posture as elegant as if he were performing a piece of art. Since you're here, how about a few rounds? He put the gun down, his tone leaving no room for argument. When the cold, hard grip of the gun settled into her hand, a long-lost sense of familiarity surged through her. She checked the chamber, loaded the magazine, raised the weapon, and aimed. The movements were fluid, seamless. The sharp, deadly aura of a soldier reignited around her. Bang, bang, bang. After 5 rounds, her score was nearly identical to Jasper's. Why would someone like you choose a man like Leo Gu? Jasper watched her, his expression unreadable. Chloe didn't want to answer and turned to leave. You no longer care about Leo Gu. His voice followed her, laced with a malicious curiosity. But what about Ethan? Chloe stopped dead in her tracks. I'm very curious what you would do if I made a move on him. His words were a lit fuse to the final, untouched powder keg in Chloe's heart. She spun around, a blur of motion, and in the blink of an eye, she was in front of him, her hand fisted in his collar, her eyes blazing with a furious fire. Don't you touch him. Her voice was a warning and a threat. Jasper looked down at her, at the rage in her eyes ignited for another man, and his mood seemed to sour even further. He spoke slowly, his tone terrifyingly calm. Then, how about you stay by my side for a while? Just as Chloe's anger was about to erupt, a clear, challenging voice called out from nearby. Looks like I arrived just in time. Mister, bye. If you want to make a move on me, feel free. But you want my captain to stay with you? Dream on. Chloe froze and slowly turned. Ethan was there, walking towards them, the familiar, arrogant smile of the capital's princeling plastered on his face. Ethan's voice, though not loud, was like a sharp knife that sliced through the tense air of the shooting range. He walked to Chloe's side, naturally pulling her hand away from Jasper's collar and enclosing it in his own warm palm. Did you return the dress? He asked softly, as if the dangerous man before them didn't exist. Yes. Chloe nodded, the warmth in her hand easing her frayed nerves. Then let's go, Ethan said. He turned to face Jasper, the gentleness in his eyes vanishing, replaced by a sharp intensity that belied his years. Mister, bye. If you really have what it takes to make a move on me, by all means try. Nothing in this world is certain. You may think you're the hunter, but you could unwittingly become someone else's prey. With that, he led Chloe away without a backward glance. Jasper's gaze fell on their clasped hands, a sight that was somehow more irritating than when she had been grabbing his collar. In the car, Chloe finally spoke. Are you not afraid he'll actually come after you after what you just said? If I dared to say it, I'm not afraid. Ethan's voice held a natural confidence. Captain, I'm not that reckless kid anymore. If Jasper wants to touch me, he'd better be prepared for mutual destruction. He paused, then asked, besides, didn't you just threaten him for my sake? Weren't you afraid? Chloe gave a wry smile. I'm different. You have a family, a future. I have nothing left to lose. If something really happened. Who says you have nothing left to lose? Ethan cut her off sharply, squeezing her hand. I don't know about anyone else, but if something happened to you, I would give my life to avenge you. His undeniable sincerity made Chloe's heart skip a beat. The little tag-along she used to protect had truly grown up. I don't get into trouble that easily, she said, her throat tight, forcing a lighter tone. Ethan finally smiled, a grin that seemed to chase away all the shadows. True. I won't let anything happen to you. He started the car. I'd like to pay my respects to your parents, if that's okay. If I had known you went to get their ashes alone, I never would have let you go by yourself. In the quiet room at the funeral home, 2 sandalwood urns covered with the vibrant national flag rested on the altar. Chloe clasped her hands, speaking to them in her heart. Mom, Dad, just a few more days, and I'll take you home. Beside her, Ethan bowed 3 times, his voice low and firm. Uncle, Auntie, please rest assured. I will take care of Chloe. I will never let her be hurt again. In that moment, he had called her Chloe, not Captain. Just then, her phone rang, the name Leo Gu flashing on the screen. She answered with a frown, and was immediately met with his furious voice. Why have you cleared all your things out of the villa? I've moved out. Chloe's voice was flat. If you see anything else of mine, just throw it away. Moved out. Are you trying to make a point? No. I just don't want to live there anymore. She took a breath and got to the point. About the divorce, I don't want to drag this out. I don't need the 100 million from the agreement. I just want you to finalize the paperwork with me as soon as possible. Fine. You want to talk divorce? Come back to the villa right now, and we'll talk. Leo said, then hung up. Chloe put her phone away and met Ethan's worried gaze. I'll go with you, he said. No, this is between him and me. Chloe shook her head, her eyes more determined than ever. I'm going to divorce him. I will. When she returned to the cold villa, Leo was already waiting on the living room sofa, his face grim. Do you really want to divorce me that badly? He asked. There's no reason for this marriage to continue. Because of a few little things? He asked, annoyed. Little things. Chloe laughed, the sound full of scorn. Your mother and sister trying to ruin me is a little thing? Your emotional affair with Sophia's song is a little thing. Sophia and I are just friends. I never slept with her, he protested defensively. So only physical cheating counts as cheating? Chloe pressed him. When everyone thought you two were the perfect couple, did you ever once tell them you had a wife? No, because you were ashamed of a wife like me. I was an embarrassment you couldn't bring yourself to mention. Hearing his deepest insecurity spoken aloud, Leo's face flushed. He lashed out. And you? Are you blameless? You're a drone expert with all these patents. Why did you never tell me? Did I not? Chloe sneered. I once told you I had an interest in drones. And what did you say? You said I was bragging, that I was jealous of Sophia and trying to compete with her. Leo, in this house, the person who looked down on me the most was you. She paused, her voice laced with an unmasked jealousy. Are you divorcing me so you can be with Ethan? First Jasper now Ethan. You really know how to attract men. Chloe, did the two of you start fooling around back at the military base? A sharp slap echoed in the silent room. Leo clutched his stinging cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief. Are you insane? What you just said is enough to have you charged with insulting a soldier. Chloe's eyes were as cold as daggers. The bond between soldiers is one of life and death. It's a trust that means you can give them your back without fear. It's something a person like you will never understand. Her clear, unwavering gaze made Leo feel like a pathetic clown. He fell silent. Fine, you want a divorce? I agree, he finally said, his eyes turning vicious. But the patent for the drone control program you filed for during our marriage, you will grant full rights to GU Technologies. Chloe's face fell. That was the fruit of her hard labor, the ace she was planning to use to lead her new company to success. And if I refuse? Then I'll sue. It's marital property. I know you want to give it to your friend's company, but you'd better think carefully about whether you want to drag her down with you. Looking at this man, who would stop at nothing for his own gain, the last flicker of feeling Chloe had for him turned to ash. She suddenly laughed, a desolate, tragic sound. Fine. As long as you hold a press conference, publicly announce the divorce, and finalize the paperwork with me. The patent is yours. Leo was stunned. He hadn't expected her to agree so easily. I've never regretted much in my life. Chloe looked at him, her voice clear and decisive. But now, I truly regret marrying you. Later, in Lana's car, Chloe told her the terms of the divorce. Are you crazy? Do you know how much that patent is worth? Lana exclaimed. It's not so easy to take what's mine, Chloe said, a cold glint in her eye. By the way, I also asked for 53 million from him. Why that specific number? Chloe's gaze softened with sorrow, her voice barely a whisper. That was my parents' death benefit. I used that money to help him start his business. To make a clean break, I have to get it back. 3 days later, in the hallway of the airline company, Chloe ran into Leo and Sophia. Chloe, what are you doing here? Sophia immediately blocked her path, her face a mask of suspicion. Are you here to snitch on me again? If there are problems in your marriage, you should reflect on yourself instead of blaming others. Leo's face darkened. If your actions cause Sophia to be treated unfairly here, I won't let you off the hook. Chloe looked at the perfect couple before her and found them utterly ridiculous. She gave Leo a dismissive glance, as if looking at something worthless. Who would waste time on someone they don't care about? Leo, in my heart, you lost that importance a long time ago. She then turned to the triumphant Sophia, a deeply mocking smile on her lips. The reason we're divorcing is his fault. A man who is disloyal to his marriage and disrespectful to his wife will always find someone. If it wasn't you, it would have been somebody else. So, this piece of trash that I'm throwing away, you're welcome to him. The open air of the shooting range still seemed to carry the scent of gunpowder. Ethan held Chloe's hand tightly, the steady warmth of his palm chasing away the chill from her confrontation with Jasper by. Are you not afraid he'll actually come after you after what you just said? Chloe asked once they were in the car. If I dared to say it, I'm not afraid. Ethan started the car, his profile confident and determined. Captain, I'm not that reckless kid anymore. If Jasper wants to touch me, he'd better be prepared for mutual destruction. He paused, a teasing smile playing on his lips. Besides, didn't you just grab his collar and threaten him for my sake? Weren't you afraid? Chloe gave a wry smile. I'm different. You have a family, a future. I have nothing left to lose. If something really happened. Who says you have nothing left to lose? Ethan cut her off sharply, his tone more serious than ever. I don't know about anyone else, but if something happened to you, I would give my life to avenge you. His sincerity made Chloe's heart skip a beat. The boy she once had to protect had now grown into a man who could shelter her from the storm. That night, on the terrace of Lana's apartment, the three of them sat around a small grill, the celebratory fizz of cold beer filling their glasses. It was a small party for Chloe's impending freedom. After a few drinks, Lana became more talkative. She pointed a tipsy finger at Ethan. When Chloe got married without telling us, you were the one who cried his eyes out. Now that she's getting a divorce, you must be the happiest one here, right? Ethan's face flushed a deep red, and he reached out to cover Lana's mouth. But she just yelled louder. What are you so shy about? I already told Chloe. She knows everything. You were bawling your eyes out, tears streaming down your face. The embarrassed blush spread from Ethan's ears down to his neck. He looked at Chloe sheepishly. I'm sorry, Chloe said, breaking the awkward silence. For getting married without telling you. I'm sorry I made you sad. Yeah, I was sad back then. Ethan's nose tingled. He downed his beer in one go, the red liquid trickling from the corner of his mouth into his collar with a surprisingly seductive effect. But now I'm happy. Because I'm getting a divorce? Yes, because you're getting a divorce. I'm so happy. Under the influence of alcohol, his beautiful, star-like eyes shone with an incredible brightness. After it's finalized, there's something I want to tell you. 3 days later, at the press conference, the flash of cameras was as blinding as daylight. As soon as Chloe and Lana entered the venue, they ran into Leo's mother and Gia, who had been released on bail. You have the nerve to show your face. Leo's mother shrieked like a wild animal, lunging forward to slap Chloe. But her hand was caught midair, stopped by an iron grip. Chloe twisted her wrist, easily deflecting the attack, and then shoved her away. Help! My daughter-in-law is hitting me. The old woman immediately threw herself to the floor, wailing dramatically. Chloe, you hit my mother? Leo's voice cut in. He had arrived with Sophia, the two of them looking like a pair of judges. Brother, she hit Mom. Gia immediately twisted the truth. Chloe watched the family's ugly performance with cold eyes, her gaze finally settling on Leo. You believe them? She's my mother. Of course I believe her. Leo's voice held no hesitation. Apologize now. Chloe suddenly laughed, a clear sound filled with endless mockery. Divorcing you is truly the best decision I've ever made. She didn't argue. She simply raised her phone and played the video she had just recorded. It clearly showed his mother lunging, being blocked, and then staging the entire fall. Leo's face turned a deep, blotchy red. The press conference officially began. Leo sat at the main table, cleared his throat, and spoke into the microphones. Today, I am here to announce that Ms. Chloe Chiao and I have decided to officially divorce. A murmur went through the crowd. But his next words sent a chill down Chloe's spine. The drone patent filed by Ms. Chiao during our marriage will become the property of GU Technologies. As compensation, since my personal funds are currently tied up in company operations, I will be transferring a portion of my company shares to her. Shares that were still in a lockup period, couldn't be traded, and were incredibly difficult to even transfer. He was trying to use a worthless IOU to steal the patent she had poured her heart and soul into. This is not what we agreed upon. Chloe shot to her feet, her eyes glaring at him. The company is at a critical stage of development. Are you really going to jeopardize its future for the sake of money? Leo said, positioning himself on the moral high ground, painting her as a greedy, selfish woman. My son is doing everything for the company, and all you can think about is money, his mother's timely shriek added to the drama. Chloe, are you going to sacrifice all of our interests for your own selfish gain? Gia accused righteously. In an instant, all eyes in the room, filled with sympathy, confusion, and contempt, were on Chloe. How amusing, a lazy yet piercing voice called out from the entrance. Trying to steal your ex-wife's patent and leave her with nothing. It's a move more ruthless than a vampire sucking its victim dry. Ethan, followed by a sea of flashing lights, strode into the room as if he were a king entering his court. Young Master Ethan. Leo's expression faltered. That patent was filed during the marriage. It's marital property. Gia insisted. My Chloe graduated from the National Defense Academy, top science scholar in the capital. Is she qualified enough to file for a patent? Lana stood up, furious. If your brother had any shame, he wouldn't be trying to steal her patent while refusing to even pay her the $1.53 million he promised. $1.53 million? The number shifted the entire mood of the room. He was willing to steal a patent potentially worth hundreds of millions over a mere $1.53 million? Leo was enraged. I'm not refusing to pay. Once the shares are out of the lockup period. Is that so? Chloe cut him off with a cold laugh. She pulled a thick stack of documents from her bag and, with a flick of her wrist, sent the white pages flying like a snowstorm towards the reporters. These are the receipts from the past 2 years for jewelry purchased for Miss Sophia's song from your personal account. The total value exceeds $50 million. And now you're telling me you can't come up with $1.53 million. The room exploded. Reporters scrambled to grab the receipts, which included clear photos and prices. The color drained from Sophia's face. She fumbled to remove the $10 million necklace from her neck, the jewel that had once been her pride, now feeling like a branding iron against her skin. It's because Chloe cheated. Cornered and desperate, Gia let out one final, venomous scream. She held up several photos of Chloe helping a drunk Ethan the other night, taken from a misleading angle to make them look intimate. Her affair was with him. That's bullshit. I was there too. Lana yelled, ready to jump over the table. Amid the chaos, Ethan just smiled. He walked slowly towards Gia, looking down at her, as if she were already dead. Are you prepared? He asked softly, his voice carrying a hellish chill. To take responsibility for every word you just said? The maximum sentence for slander is 3 years in prison. The man who came to pick me up yesterday was my uncle, the lawyer Xing Yanqi. I believe you've heard his name. Do you really think he would lie for me? The name, Xing Yanqi, made the arrogant, vicious expression on Gia's face freeze, crack, and crumble into pure, soul-deep terror. Xing Yanqi. The name landed like a thunderclap in the press conference hall. The color drained from Gia Gu's face, her body freezing like a statue, filled with a bone-deep terror. She had not only offended the princeling of the capital, but also the top lawyer behind him, a man who could use the law to send people to hell. At that tense moment, an old but authoritative voice came from the entrance. Who is it that wants to slander my niece? Chloe spun around, her eyes instantly welling up. An elderly man in civilian clothes, but carrying an undeniable air of command walked in. It was her old commander, General Zhu. And walking beside him, surprisingly, was Jasper Bai. Uncle Zhu, what are you doing here? Chloe hurried to greet him. You foolish child, getting a divorce and not even telling me. The general chided her, but his eyes were full of paternal concern. Your parents are gone, so I am your elder. How could I not come when you've been wronged? Chloe's nose stung, 1,000 words caught in her throat. Leo looked at the unfamiliar old man and frowned. Who are you? I've never heard Chloe mention any uncle. So you're Chloe's husband? The general's sharp gaze locked onto Leo, the aura of a seasoned battlefield commander pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe. Not for long. My son doesn't want this kind of woman. Leo's mother shrieked, still oblivious to the shift in power. It is your son who is not worthy of Chloe, the general roared. A man who wouldn't even go to receive the ashes of her parents has no right to be her husband. Bah, ashes are bad luck. You think my son should have gone to get them? Dream on. His mother spat, growing more triumphant with each word. The day she brought that urn home, I slapped her to make her get it out of the house. She was trying to curse my family with bad luck, the venomous witch. The general trembled with rage. The treasured daughter of his comrade in arms had been subjected to such a profound humiliation. As Leo's mother continued to boast about her achievements, a cold voice cut through the air. Slap her. It was Jasper Bai. His thin lips parted to utter a single command. His subordinate moved instantly, stepping forward and delivering a resounding slap across the old woman's face, cutting off her stream of venom. The entire hall was stunned into silence. After a moment of shock, Leo's mother began to scream. Chloe, you conspired with outsiders to hit me. It's because your parents had a daughter like you that they died so young. Continue. Jasper ordered again, his voice devoid of any warmth. 2 more slaps, fast and hard, landed on her cheeks, which quickly began to swell and redden. Leo tried to rush forward, but was blocked by Jasper's men. He didn't dare confront Jasper, so he turned his fury on Chloe. Chloe, tell them to stop. Is this what you wanted? Chloe's lips were pressed into a thin line. She said nothing. They could humiliate her, but they would not humiliate her parents. Her parents were martyrs who died for their country. If anything happens to my mother, can you bear the responsibility? Leo roared. I will. Jasper's voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise of the crowd. If she's injured or maimed, the Bai family will cover all expenses. His words plunged the room into a dead silence. Leo's mother was too frightened to even whimper, staring at her son in terror. Chloe, do you have to be like this? Backed into a corner, Leo finally broke down. You just want the money, don't you? Fine. I'll give it to you. Just make them let my mother go. The slapping finally stopped. Jasper looked at Chloe, as if waiting for her decision. Chloe met Leo's gaze, her voice clear and cold. I do want the money. But this one, 53 million, you are not giving it to me. You are returning it. When you wanted to start your business, I was the one who gave you that one. 53 million in cash. The only reason I'm asking for just this amount is because I want nothing more to do with your disgusting family. A gasp went through the crowd. So the tech prodigy's first pot of gold had come from his wife. Who knows if she's telling the truth? Gia muttered defiantly. It was from her parents' death benefits. Lana finally couldn't hold it in any longer and roared the secret that had been buried for 3 years. Her words were a bomb that detonated in Leo's mind. His pupils constricted. He stumbled towards Chloe, his voice raspy. Why? Why didn't you tell me back then that it was their death benefits? I didn't want to burden you, Chloe said simply. Back then, what she had given him wasn't just money. It was all her hopes for their future. Regret, like an invisible hand, squeezed Leo's heart, the pain so intense he could barely breathe. He finally understood what he had missed and the true depth of his debt. The money. I'll give it to you tomorrow, he managed to say. Tomorrow was the day they were going to the Civil Affairs Bureau. The money was rightfully hers. It was he who owed her. The farce was finally over. Chloe agreed to the general's request and also to Jasper's invitation to serve as his personal bodyguard for 3 months. That night, Leo locked himself in the empty bedroom. He opened the drawer of the nightstand. Inside lay 2 rings, the cheap pair they had bought from a night market for less than $20. He had promised her he would buy her the best diamond ring one day. But until their divorce, he had given Sophia millions in jewelry, yet never once thought to replace the cheap band on his own wife's finger. Overwhelming self-loathing and regret threatened to consume him. He needed money. He needed to get 53 million immediately to make this final, pathetic gesture of compensation. He went to find Sophia. Sophia, can I borrow some money? He asked, the words feeling like stones in his mouth. Sophia looked hesitant, ultimately only producing 100,000. Leo gritted his teeth and made the request that shamed him to his core. The jewelry. The pieces I gave you. Could we pawn 1 or 2 of them for now? Once the company's cash flow improves, I'll buy them back for you. A flicker of reluctance crossed Sophia's eyes, but after weighing her options, she brought out a jewelry box and opened it for him. The diamonds, jade, and gems glittered under the light, the sight so brilliant it hurt his eyes. He instinctively touched the cold, cheap metal rings in his pocket. He had bought so much for Sophia. Why had he never once thought to buy a single piece for Chloe? Leo's gaze was fixed on the glittering array of jewelry. Diamonds, rubies, emeralds. Each piece was priceless, each a testament to his efforts to win over Sophia. But now, they felt like burning coals, searing his eyes and his conscience. He instinctively touched the cold, $20 wedding rings in his pocket. The stark contrast was a silent slap across his face. What is it, Leo? Sophia's voice pulled him back to reality. He snapped back, picking up a ruby ring with a trembling hand. This one, his voice was hoarse. When the company is doing better, I'll buy it back for you and get you something even better. It's okay, Sophia feigned generosity. I never cared about these things anyway. Leo looked at her gratefully, but another image involuntarily surfaced in his mind. It was Chloe in the flight simulator, her eyes focused, her movements precise, piloting the plane into the clouds. For some reason, compared to Sophia, that image had left a much deeper impression. The next day, in the waiting area of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the air was quiet and tense. Chloe and Leo sat side by side, like the most familiar of strangers. I've transferred the 53 million to you. Leo's voice was dry. When the transfer was complete, Chloe looked at the familiar number in the text message, a flicker of nostalgia in her eyes. It wasn't just money. It was the last tangible piece of her parents' love. I'm sorry, Leo finally said. I didn't know how much you had given. If I had known sooner. If you had known sooner, Chloe cut him off, her eyes full of scorn. Would you have cut ties with Sophia's song? Would you have sent your mother and sister to prison after they tried to drug and assault me? Leo was speechless. So what good is your apology? Chloe's voice was as cold as ice. When she held the 2 red divorce certificates in her hand, Chloe let out a long sigh. She smiled. a look of pure relief. From now on, she was just Chloe Chiao. Wait. Leo called out as she turned to leave. I've never paid my respects to your parents. Could you take me to them? Chloe looked at him as if he had just told the funniest joke in the world. She turned back, her voice clear and final. Leo, my parents do not need your respects. With that, she walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau and into her new world. In the airport departure lounge, Chloe sat quietly, the urn covered by the national flag resting on her lap. In just a few hours, she would finally take her parents home. Chloe, what are you doing here? An unwelcome voice shattered the peace. Sophia's song, dressed in a crisp first officer's uniform, appeared with a group of flight crew members. Leo and I are divorced, Chloe responded coldly, not wanting to waste her breath on her. Sophia let out a sigh of relief, then put on a patronizing air. By the way, Leo was only able to give you that $53 million because I pawned one of my rings. So, shouldn't you be thanking me? Chloe's gaze sharpened. Thank you? The $50 million worth of jewelry Leo gave you during our marriage is considered marital property. I can sue at any time to get my half back. So, the one who should be thankful is you. The strange looks from her colleagues made Sophia's face flush. Her eyes landed maliciously on the urn on Chloe's lap. What is that you're holding? She asked, her chin held high as she abused her authority. I suspect this item is unsafe. As the first officer of this flight, I demand an immediate inspection. These are my parents' ashes. I have already cleared it with the airline. Chloe's voice dropped to a frigid tone. I didn't receive any notification. Sophia sneered, picking up her walkie-talkie. Security. Someone is carrying a suspicious item here. Detain them immediately. Several security guards quickly surrounded them. The atmosphere became electric. Just then, Leo appeared in the crowd. Instead of stopping Sophia, he said to Chloe, Sophia is just concerned about safety. It's only an inspection. Just cooperate. His words were a poisoned dagger, stabbing straight into Chloe's heart. Leo, do you want my parents to have no peace even in death? She demanded, her voice sharp with pain and outrage. Hurry up and grab the box from her. Sophia urged impatiently. The security guards rushed forward. Chloe clutched the urn, the last trace of warmth gone from her eyes. The deadly aura of a soldier erupted from within her. She moved. A front kick, a side kick, an elbow strike. Her movements were clean and efficient, each blow landing precisely on a vulnerable joint. In moments, the tall security guards were on the ground, groaning in pain. She stood like an inviolable goddess of war, using her own body to create a final line of defense for her parents. Stop. Those are the ashes of a martyr. Lana screamed from the sidelines. Sophia only watched with a mocking smile. Chloe's gaze, like two unsheathed swords, locked onto Sophia. She charged forward. The security guards, intimidated by her sheer presence, didn't dare to stop her. She kicked Sophia to the ground, the cold sole of her shoe pressing firmly against her chest. Chloe, how dare you? Sophia gasped, shocked and furious. You dared. Why wouldn't I? Leo rushed to pull her off, but she kicked him away without a second glance, sending him crashing into a row of seats. She looked down at the woman beneath her foot. My parents died for this country. Their honor is not something a person like you is allowed to tarnish. Just as she raised her foot to teach Sophia a lesson she would never forget, the sound of rhythmic, marching footsteps echoed through the hall. What is going on here? A commanding voice boomed, silencing the entire crowd. Chloe whipped her head around. General Zhu was striding towards them, flanked by 2 rows of soldiers in full uniform. They had come to see their comrades off on their final journey. At the sight of the familiar olive green, Chloe's eyes instantly turned red. The airline executives, alerted to the commotion, rushed to the scene. Seeing the military presence, they nearly fainted. After learning what had happened, the vice president made a swift decision. Sophia's song is immediately grounded, pending investigation. Leo, help me. Stripped of her position, Sophia clung to Leo's arm like a drowning woman. Leo looked at the pathetic woman before him, then at the proud, solitary figure in the distance, his heart a turmoil of emotions. He gritted his teeth, walked over to Chloe, and said the words that even he found absurd. Chloe, for the sake of our 3 years of marriage, can't you just forgive Sophia this one time? Chloe suddenly burst out laughing, but her laughter was laced with tears. The last lingering thought she had for this man vanished into thin air. She looked at him, at the face she once loved, and with all the strength she could muster, she screamed the truth that would shatter his entire world. If I hadn't pulled you, stabbed 8 times, out of that river, would you even be alive to stand here and say these things to me? Leo Gu, you are a complete bastard. In that instant, Leo Gu's world shattered. Chloe's heart-wrenching accusation was like a white-hot brand seared onto his soul. What did you just say? He stumbled forward, his voice trembling with disbelief. What do you mean? You saved me. But Chloe couldn't spare him another glance. She turned and walked toward the boarding gate, her back so resolute it was as if she were severing ties with her entire past. The boarding call was announced. General Zhu walked up to Chloe, stood at attention, and gave a solemn military salute, his voice booming like a bell. A final farewell to martyrs Warren Xiao and Anna Guan. On their journey home. Behind him, the soldiers saluted in unison, their voices thundering through the hall. Farewell to our martyrs, on their journey home. The entire departure lounge fell into a respectful silence. Chloe's eyes reddened, a mist clouding her vision. Mom, Dad, do you see this? Your comrades haven't forgotten you. She held the urn, bowed deeply 3 times, and then, with unwavering resolve, walked through the gate. She was taking them home. Leo stood frozen, his mind in chaos. Why? How did she know he had been stabbed 8 times and fallen into the river? He had never told her. He wanted to run after her, to demand an explanation, but the cold gate had already separated them into 2 different worlds. Beside him, Sophia's head was bowed, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Fear, like a suffocating vine, was strangling her heart. Was the secret she had stolen all those years ago about to be exposed? No, absolutely not. The business class cabin on the flight to Yincheng was unusually quiet. Apart from the flight crew, there were only 2 passengers, Chloe and Jasper Bai. I told you we would meet again soon, he said, leaning back leisurely in his seat, breaking the silence. Chloe, clutching the urn, sat down in the seat next to him. For the entire flight, he said nothing more, though his occasional glances were so deep they made her feel a little uneasy. When the plane landed, the humid, gentle air of Yincheng greeted them. Jasper had arranged for a car, and they headed into the city together. Chloe watched the scenery fly by, the soft beauty of the river town gradually merging with her memories. This was her hometown, a place she hadn't seen in many years. Suddenly, an ancient ancestral hall came into view. It stood in stark contrast to the bustling city street, exuding a solemn and dignified air. That's the Qiao family's ancestral hall, the driver, a talkative local, explained. In Yincheng, the Qiaos are a big deal. 30 years ago, a developer offered 200 million for this land, but Qiao family members came from all over the country and scared them off. They said they wouldn't sell a single inch of the land their ancestors left them. The driver's words stirred a buried memory in Chloe. Her father had told her this story, about how the Qiao clansmen drew lots to see who would fight to the death to protect the hall, about how her grandfather didn't draw a lot, but simply stood up with a sword and said, "My son is grown. He doesn't need the clan's support. I can give my life for the clan." Meanwhile, Leo left the airport in a daze. Chloe's final words echoed in his mind like a curse. Back at the villa, his mother and sister were gleefully discussing Chloe's presumed downfall after the divorce. For the first time, their voices grated on his nerves. "Mom, stop it," he rubbed his aching forehead. "Chloe and I are already divorced." He locked himself in the bedroom, only to find it terrifyingly empty. Everything that belonged to her was gone, as if she had never existed. He opened the nightstand drawer. The 2 cheap wedding rings lay there silently. He remembered his vows, the gentle smile on her face when she put on the ring. A wave of intense regret, like a venomous snake, gnawed at his heart. His phone rang. It was Sophia. He had questions for her too. In a coffee shop near the airport, Sophia cried a river of tears, blaming everything on Chloe. "Sophia," Leo interrupted her, his gaze intense. "Who was it, really, that pulled me out of the river back then?" Sophia's face went deathly pale. "Leo, what are you trying to say? Are you doubting me just because of something Chloe said?" she asked, her voice a mix of hurt and anger. "I saved you, everyone saw it. If she was the one who saved you, why did she never mention it before? I think she's just trying to drive a wedge between us." Leo fell silent. It was true. Sophia was the one he saw when he woke up. The hospital staff had said so too. And what reason would Chloe have to hide it for so long? "Leo, if you really believe her, then fine," Sophia said, playing her trump card. "I saved you out of kindness. I never expected anything in return." Looking at the tearful, vulnerable woman before him, the scales in Leo's mind tipped once again. Yes, back then he had nothing. What reason would Sophia have to lie? It must have been Chloe, who had heard the story from somewhere and used it to hurt him one last time. "Sophia, I believe you," he said slowly, his voice firm. "As far as I'm concerned, you are the only one who saved my life." The heavy weight in Sophia's chest finally lifted. She offered to go with him to Yincheng, to introduce him to her mother's family and help him expand his business. What she didn't mention was that Yincheng was also Chloe's hometown. Leo agreed. He would go to Yincheng. He would confront Chloe and demand to know why she had told him such a vicious lie. The car drove past the Qiao ancestral hall. The ancient eaves and heavy wooden doors left a deep impression on Chloe. She gently stroked the urn on her lap and whispered in her heart, "Mom, Dad, we're almost home. The place our grandfather protected with his life is our family's root." In the restaurant, the delicate aroma of the regional cuisine stirred Chloe's buried memories. The dishes she ordered were all her parents' favorites. But the food, no matter how exquisite, couldn't replicate the warmth and liveliness of her memories. Just then, a gentle female voice spoke. "Jasper, what brings you to Yincheng?" Chloe looked up to see a woman in the latest designer fashion, her expression gentle but her face pale, smiling as she approached Jasper Bai. Her name was Ivy Chiao, and she made sure to emphasize that she and Jasper had known each other since they were children. "We're more than friends," Jasper said in response to Ivy's probing gaze. He took Chloe's hand and led her into a private room, leaving the jealousy and speculation outside the door. "What did you say to Leo Gu at the airport?" Jasper asked suddenly, once they were alone. "Nothing, just a small thing," Chloe said dismissively. To her, saving Leo had been a minor act. If she hadn't been pushed to her limit, she probably never would have mentioned it. He stared at her for a moment, then asked with a smirk, "If Leo Gu regrets it one day and gets on his knees to beg you to come back, would you?" "No," she answered without hesitation. "And you, Mr. Bye," she retorted. "If you divorced a woman and she begged you to take her back, would you?" "If I were to actually get married," Jasper's lips curved into a smile that held no warmth, "I would absolutely never get a divorce." His words reminded Chloe of the vows Leo had once made, and she found them deeply ironic. "What? You don't believe me?" he asked, noticing her skepticism. "I don't believe in absolutes. What if, in a marriage, the other person fell out of love with you and insisted on a divorce?" she pressed. "For me." He looked at her, his voice terrifyingly calm. "There is no divorce, only widowhood. If she can kill me, then she is free to leave me." Chloe was stunned. The horrifying statement, coming from him, sounded as casual as discussing the weather. His possessiveness and resolve sent a chill down her spine. And, most importantly, during the meal, he looked at her and set the core term of their bodyguard agreement. "No matter what happens, you cannot leave me behind." It sounded less like a demand for a bodyguard and more like a child's desperate plea to the world. Chloe's heart stirred. Looking at this powerful man, for the first time, she felt that perhaps he wasn't as strong as he appeared. On her way to the restroom, Chloe ran into Ivy again. This time, Ivy had dropped her gentle facade, her words dripping with condescension and warning. "I've seen many women like you, just playthings for the rich. Jasper will never fall in love with anyone, especially not you. So he won't fall in love with you either, is that it?" Chloe's sharp retort hit its mark, enraging Ivy. Ivy raised her hand to slap her, but Chloe easily blocked it. When her first plan failed, Ivy smashed her own expensive glasses and prepared to play the victim. "My eyes are the one thing Jasper cares about most," she sneered, confident that he would come to her defense. But she hadn't counted on Chloe quietly dialing Jasper's number the moment she started her act. When his cool voice came through the phone, and his tall figure emerged from around the corner, all of Ivy's scheming and malice froze into a comical look of terror. "My people are not for you to touch." Jasper looked at her, his eyes cold. "If you ever use your eyes as a weapon again, don't blame me for breaking my promise." Back in the car, Jasper voluntarily explained their shared past. "One of her eyes was almost destroyed by me." Chloe froze. "I was 8 years old." His voice was faint, as if coming from a distant hell. "I had a psychotic episode. I was strangling her, and I almost gouged her eye out with my bare hands." The horrifying story made the air in the car feel thick and heavy. Chloe looked at him, not with fear, but with a quiet sympathy. "I think both you and Ivy are pitiful." "Pitiful?" He raised an eyebrow, as if it was the first time anyone had used that word to describe him, the aggressor. "An 8-year-old boy, having a psychotic episode. Isn't that pitiful?" She looked him directly in the eye, her gaze clear and unwavering. His heart felt a gentle jolt. "If I have another episode one day, aren't you afraid I'll gouge your eyes out too?" he asked, a dangerous, testing smirk on his face. "I'm not Ivy," Chloe answered calmly. "If that day ever comes, I'll just knock you out cold so you can't hurt anyone." He stared at her, then let out a low chuckle. "Interesting. Very interesting." Would his interest in her really fade after 3 months? The car finally stopped in front of a hospital. "Let's have a doctor look at your injuries," Jasper said. The pain from the stun batons at the airport was indeed still lingering, so Chloe didn't refuse. In the clinic, after she described her symptoms, the doctor pointed to the examination bed. "Take off your shoes and lie down so I can take a look." Chloe bent over, but a sharp pain in her side made her gasp. "Hurts, does it? Then have your husband help you with your shoes," the doctor said without looking up. "Husband?" Chloe froze, following the doctor's gaze to where Jasper was standing beside her. His expression was impassive, as if the husband the doctor was referring to had nothing to do with him. The car stopped in front of one of Yinqing's top restaurants. Just as Chloe and Jasper entered, they ran into Ivy Chiao. This time, Ivy had dropped her gentle facade, her words dripping with condescension. "I've seen many women like you, just playthings for the rich. Jasper will never fall in love with anyone. So he won't fall in love with you either, is that it?" Chloe's sharp retort enraged Ivy, who then smashed her own expensive glasses to stage a scene. But she hadn't counted on Chloe quietly dialing Jasper's number. When his tall figure emerged from around the corner, all of Ivy's scheming and malice froze into a comical look of terror. "My people are not for you to touch." Jasper said, his eyes cold. If you ever use your eyes as a weapon again, don't blame me for breaking my promise. Back in the car, Jasper voluntarily revealed their shared past, his voice like a whisper from a distant hell. One of her eyes was almost destroyed by me. I was 8 years old, having a psychotic episode. I almost gouged her eye out with my bare hands. Chloe looked at him not with fear, but with sympathy. I think both you and Ivy are pitiful. The unexpected response made Jasper's heart feel a gentle jolt. Jasper's villa in Yincheng was luxurious and vast. He had Chloe stay in the room next to his for her protection. He gave her a tour, stopping at a closed door at the end of the third-floor hallway. You can go anywhere in this villa, he said in a tone that allowed no argument. But you are never to open this door. The Bluebeard-esque warning sent a chill through Chloe, but she simply nodded. Meanwhile, at the Chiao Ancestral Hall, Victor Chiao had just hung up the phone with Chloe. Nearby, Ivy casually inquired about the call. When she learned that the visitor was the long-forgotten orphan from the fifth branch of the family, a cold glint appeared in her eyes. Uncle Victor, don't you have a card game tomorrow? Why don't I handle our cousin's reception? She asked with a gentle smile, already plotting a vicious welcome. Late that night, Chloe was awakened by a muffled cry from the next room. Alarmed, she pushed open the connecting door and rushed in. The bedroom was dark. Jasper was lying in bed, his eyes squeezed shut, his body trembling with fear. His forehead was slick with cold sweat, and broken groans escaped his lips as if he were trapped in a terrible nightmare. It hurts. So much. Please stop, he mumbled unconsciously, his voice as vulnerable as a helpless child's. I'll be good, I'll listen. Chloe's heart clenched. She turned on the bedside lamp to check on him. But the moment her fingers touched his face, he grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. She was about to pull away when she heard his broken voice again, filled with a desperate plea. Don't. Leave me. Chloe froze. She stopped struggling and let him cling to her hand like a lifeline. She sat down on the rug by the bed, using her other hand to gently wipe the sweat from his brow. She had once thought he was like a stagnant pool, cold and dead. But in this moment, he was so fragile he stirred her pity. She didn't know how much time passed, but his breathing eventually evened out, his brow smoothed, and he fell into a deep sleep. Chloe tried to withdraw her hand, but his grip was too tight. With a sigh, she leaned against the nightstand, closed her eyes, and let herself rest. For a former soldier, any place could be a place of rest. The first ray of dawn slipped through the heavy curtains. The faint sound of a door opening startled Chloe awake. She opened her eyes to see Jasper's assistant, Wu Fong. He was staring in shock. His gaze flickered from her, to the peacefully sleeping Jasper, and to Jasper's hand, which was still clamped firmly around Chloe's wrist. His mouth dropped open. MMS. Ciao, he stammered. Did you and the boss sleep together last night? You're overthinking it, Chloe said, her face grim, shaking her numb wrist. He was holding my hand, and I couldn't get away. I was holding your hand. A cool, raspy voice came from behind her. Jasper had woken up. He was looking at her, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Last night, he'd had the nightmare of his father's beatings again, but in the endless darkness and pain, a warm hand had held his and never let go. He had slept well. After telling him her plan for the day, to go to the Chiao Ancestral Hall, Chloe returned to her room. Jasper looked at his own hand, the warmth of her touch seemingly lingering on his fingertips. He had told himself he would never fall in love, but the more she didn't leave him, the more. He found he didn't want to let her go. The Chiao Ancestral Hall stood in the busiest part of Yincheng. The words Chiao Ancestral Hall were carved into the ebony plaque in powerful calligraphy. The couplet on either side, "Do not forget the ancestors, do not fail the descendants," spoke of the family's former glory and integrity. Holding her parents' urn, Chloe stood before the building her grandfather had protected with his life, a sense of pride and belonging swelling within her. However, she was stopped before she could even step onto the porch. I am Chloe Chiao, of the fifth branch of the Chiao family. I am here today to bring my parents' ashes to be interred in the hall, she stated her purpose calmly. The fifth branch, the guard looked at her suspiciously. I thought there was no one left from the fifth branch. Just as Chloe was about to ask him to contact her Uncle Victor, a familiar voice cut in. Uncle Victor isn't here today. I'm in charge. Ivy Chiao, accompanied by a group of wealthy friends, sauntered over. She looked at Chloe with undisguised contempt and malice. Everyone knows the fifth branch died out. The Chiao Ancestral Hall isn't a place for just any riffraff to enter. You think just because your last name is Chiao, you're part of the family? Her friend, Tanya Ma jeered. You should do some research before you try to claim a connection. The Yincheng Chiaos all have generational names. Zhong, Ren, Wang Wan. You're Chloe. Which generation are you supposed to be? Chloe's lips thinned, but she ignored their insults, insisting on seeing her uncle. But Ivy blocked her path completely. Even if you really are a Chiao, if I say you can't enter today, you won't. Get her out of here before she dirties our doorstep. Several security guards immediately surrounded her. Chloe clutched the urn with one hand, her other arm held protectively across her chest. She looked at the ancestral hall, so close yet so far, and a great sadness washed over her. If her grandfather and parents could see this, see their descendant barred from even entering their own family home, how heartbroken they would be. A guard, eager to impress Ivy, threw a punch at Chloe. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't retreat, but advanced, delivering a clean side kick that sent him to the ground. Several more rushed at her, but she took them down one by one with sharp, efficient combat moves. She stood with one foot on a struggling guard, the urn held steady in her hands, the vibrant red flag a stark contrast against the gray stone. She took a deep breath and, facing the hall, called out with all her strength. Ancestors above, your unfilial descendant, Chloe Chiao of the 5th branch, has come today with the spirits of my father, Warren Chiao, and my mother, Anna Guan, to enter the ancestral hall. I implore the clan to open the gates. Her mournful, powerful cry drew the attention of all the passers-by. Ivy, enraged, urged the guards to attack again. Just then, a black car pulled up nearby. Jasper Bai, accompanying 2 of the Chiao Corporation's vice presidents, Gavin Chiao and Liam Chiao, was on his way to the hall to pay his respects to the family patriarch. Seeing the commotion, a strange sense of unease gripped Jasper, and he strode quickly towards the crowd. When he broke through, he was met with a stunning sight. Chloe stood alone before the ancestral hall, her spine ramrod straight. All around her lay the groaning guards, but she stood like an inviolable goddess of war. Her face was a mask of cold fury, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Chloe Chiao of the 5th branch, Liam Chiao, Ivy's father, rushed forward, pointing an accusing finger at her. Stop spreading lies. The 5th branch died out long ago. The police arrived at that moment. When the officers saw the flag-draped urn in Chloe's arms, their expressions turned solemn, and they all instinctively saluted her. Liam and Ivy were dumbstruck. Faced with the police, the hostile family members, and the curious, pitying, and scornful gazes of the crowd, Chloe offered no further explanation. She simply turned back to the closed doors of the ancestral hall, raised the urn high, and in a voice that seemed to pierce the heavens, she declared the tragic, forgotten epic of her family. I, Chloe Chiao of the 5th branch, have come today with the ashes of my parents. When our country was in peril and our lands were shattered, the 7 brothers of my branch answered the call to serve. 7 sons went to war, and only 1 returned. My grandfather, Mr. Chiao Run, to protect this hall, was stabbed 13 times, and did not retreat a single step. My father, Warren Chiao, and my mother, Anna Guan, served in the military for 30 years, and died for our country in a foreign land. They are martyrs. I, the unfilial daughter of the 5th branch, Chloe Chiao, implore the clan to open the gates today. Let my father and mother enter the ancestral hall, and take their rightful place. Her powerful words, each one a hammer blow, struck the hearts of everyone present. A dead silence fell over the crowd.